morning, NC State! Welcome to this Monday's edition of Good Morning Wolfpack. Today we will be discussing the new wonder CRISPR-Cas9 system. CRISPR stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats, and it is used for something called gene editing. Gene editing refers to making changes to our genome, which is the collection of all base pairs that make up our framework, that is DNA. DNA is inherited from parents and affected by the environment. The DNA codes for genes which show the expression of certain traits. For example, your natural root hair color. DNA can also be altered by things called mutations. Mutations are the changing or alterations of a small to large portion of a chromosome that can be passed on to future generations. To help explain more about the CRISPR process, here's a short video featuring everyone's favorite, Bojangles! And if you look under your chairs, you will find a complimentary biscuit. Wow, that made me hungry. To tell us more about the topic of CRISPR, our first guests today are the medical wonders Dr. Pepper and her associate, Pip.
It's Dr. Pibb.
I'm so happy you could join us this morning. Tell us a little about CRISPR.
CRISPR-Cas9 is literally the best thing ever. Thanks so much for allowing us to be here, Kelly.
That's great and all, but what actually is gene editing with CRISPR?
We study epigenetics, the study of how methyl and acetyl groups affect a phenotype, not the genotype. The CRISPR system is a new way for scientists to edit the genome using the Cas9 protein and the CRISPR system to cut DNA. In this process, Cas9 acts as a molecular scissors to cut the DNA as specific sequences, allowing for unwanted genes to be edited out of the genome. For today's purposes, and to keep from overwhelming everyone's decidedly small attention span, we're going to focus on the most well-known systems, Cas9. Here's a short video of the Cas9 system at work.
CRISPR-Cas9 molecular scissors. DNA is removed. Cell repair. New nucleotides. A pad match. A good match. RNA integration. Yes.
That was exquisite. For those of you who don't know, epigenetics is the reason why skin cells don't look the same as a brain cell or a muscle cell. All three cells have the same exact DNA sequence, but their genes are expressed differently, meaning all your cells have the same genetic code, but they use that code differently to get your body functioning.
I wasn't asleep! On to the next video!
Dr. Pepper, I simply cannot afford the gene therapy anymore. Is there anything else that we can try to treat my HIV?
Well, you see, as of right now, even though gene therapy is expensive, it is your best option. But there's hope for you. Scientists have recently begun studying a new method of gene editing that may prove promising for creating new methods of treating certain genetic diseases, such as HIV, that affect over 36.7 million people over the whole world.
And what exactly does this CRISPR do? I don't need to be raising my cholesterol with an off-brand British fries. My other doctor would not appreciate me exasperating another problem, and neither would my wallet.
Not a CRISP, Gertrude. CRISPR, Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Think of it as a system of cutting the DNA with a pair of molecular scissors called Cas9. Cas9 cuts the targeted DNA location or a specific set of base pairs that code for a gene. It can also be used on a piece of RNA. Essentially, the CRISPR-Cas9 system is used to insert new base pairs or delete old ones. This process is not perfect, but it's much more effective than previous methods of gene editing have ever been.
So, in the future, they may not have to pay these crazy prices. That's great, but what about me right now?
CRISPR is not capable, as of right now, of replacing your expensive gene therapy treatments, but there is hope in the future that the technology will become more available and more accessible to the public. Currently, there is a fight for a patent that may cost upwards of $1 billion, but maybe in a few years your kids will be able to use it to screen their children for diseases such as Lou Gehrig's disease and alter the DNA sequence of your grandchild before they're even born, so maybe they will never have to deal with it.
Thanks for nothing, Doc. But I'm sure that if my kids ever get around to giving me grandchildren, they'll appreciate that.
What a nice little old lady. Dr. Pepper and Mrs. Pibb, why don't you tell us a little more about how CRISPR works and when and why it doesn't?
Dr. Pibb!
That's nice, dear. But about CRISPR. Dr. Pepper, take it away.
Well, you see,
Well, the enzyme system, in this case Cas9, is guided by guide RNA or gRNA to identify and cut the right strand and place on the single strand of DNA or RNA. As for when it doesn't work, the cell recognizes the base pairs are missing and tries to fix the problem. In doing so, sometimes the cell fixes in ways that work against what CRISPR was trying to do. And sometimes there will be a mistake in repairing the DNA or RNA where base pairs are left out of the repair sequence and resulting in a permanent mutation. This mutation will be passed on as the cell reproduces and will affect the gene activity.
sometimes that's not a good thing, but when it works, it is literally the best thing ever. I think this might be literally the biggest scientific discovery since the wheel or electricity.
Because the wheel and electricity were discovered at the same time, no less.
If it is literally the best discovery, then why is it not already being used?
Because we as scientists need to know exactly what sequence is being cut. Otherwise there'll be a catastrophic effect on the organisms. We do not want to be cutting up our DNA, now do we?
Exactly. A broken or dead Cas9 enzyme will block the binding of other proteins called CRISPR inhibition. Also, an activating protein can be attached to the dead Cas9 protein to stimulate the expression of a specific gene called CRISPR activation.
Speaking of applications, we have another video for you.
Thank you so much for meeting with us, Dr. Pibb. We just have so many exciting things to talk about.
Yeah. Come in, have a seat. So, why don't you tell me a bit about why you're here today? What do you need my assistance for?
Well, you see the other day, Michael and I were watching a YouTube video, you know, the ones of the cats getting scared of the cucumbers? Well, an ad came on before we had the chance to watch, and it was one of those you just can't skip. Those are the absolute worst. So we were just sitting there waiting for it to be over, but it sparked our interest. It was an ad for something called a gene editing system with babies, and then it clicked. We've been trying to get pregnant for so long. What if this is a sign? We need to design our baby.
You want to do what?
She wants to design a baby.
From an ad on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
She's been talking about nothing else for days.
I mean, I love to design things. Why not my baby? I designed my whole house, designed my wedding dress and cake, designed my dream job, and even through a dating app, I designed my husband.
But what?
I'm just so excited for this chance. How many people can say they designed their own child? It's simply perfect.
I'm not sure what this so-called ad was, but I think you've gotten the wrong idea. What was the ad saying about designing your baby?
The ad was talking about this up-and-coming procedure thing where they put a needle in you, and basically you get to play The Sims and design your baby. To be honest, I've been worried about Carol's excitement, and I don't want to play God. I want the baby to look like my baby. And how far do we feel okay changing our baby? Are you going to change anything without us knowing? Will our friends and family forgive us? Will society shun us?
Was this so-called thing in the ad perhaps CRISPR?
Mm-hmm.
I see. I'm assuming you didn't look up anything about the actual process of CRISPR. To help clarify, there are still restrictions being set up for using CRISPR on human embryos, but the discretion of using CRISPR is up to each individual person. However, at this practice, we are not using the CRISPR-Cas9 process to change how the baby looks before it is born. We are focused on treating babies who have a concern for genetic disorders such as sickle cell anemia.
Wouldn't that still be like playing God? Wouldn't our baby be meant to have that disorder?
But wouldn't you buy medicine to treat your child if it had a cold? If you didn't, wouldn't you be thought as a horrible parent for letting your child suffer? The thoughts are the same in each of these cases. Wouldn't it be unethical to not treat your unborn child if they had a chromosomal disorder? CRISPR is giving science a way to lower defect rates as well as abortion rates for those considering it.
We would never consider an abortion.
Be that as it may, it would still lower the rates. Besides, although we have recently started doing research on human embryos, we don't know what changing their DNA would do to future generations. The science community needs to set ethics and restrictions so there won't be mad protests in valleys like when stem cell research came into the public eye. People such as yourself need to educate yourselves as so not to cause any more confusion like this again.
That was so amazing to hear about.
It was so amazing. My associate and I are really hoping that this morning we will get the word CRISPR in everyone's ears so that they won't go thinking we're trying to play their god and take over the world with designer babies, as Carol so aptly put it.
Wow, amazing. Next, we are going to have a guest come out. Welcome to Farmer McDonald.
Well, howdy, y'all.
Yes, hi and all that. Please do come and sit down. Okay, Mick Jagger, tell us what you do and all that jazz.
Well, I work on a tomato farm that's running rampant with something called the tomato spotted wilt virus, known as TSWV.
And that is what exactly?
It's a virus that's transferred through these little insect things as small as my pinky nail. They keep eating my plants and give this sickness to my tomatoes that's making them look all sad and strange. The thing is, I don't know how to fix them.
Ooh, it's funny you should mention this particular virus. One of my friends is actually working on a genetic modification of this plant to give it resistance against the virus. It actually comes down to what is called an SW5 resistance locus, meaning in the plant there is a place that tells the plant it has come across a virus, but the TSWV is tricking the plant. The virus has adapted to predict how the resistance gene interacts with other genes, but it has an increased immune system response against the plant. It is genuinely the worst.
Those are some big words you got there.
She's saying the virus is tricking your plant into thinking it is actually healthy.
Well, how do that to my little babies?
You know what's amazing? Scientists are doing research on this virus as we speak. Scientists are using CRISPR to try and create resistant strains of the tomato by studying the functionality of a promoter gene. To those of you who don't know, a promoter gene is what codes for a response to happen, in this case, for the immune system of the tomato to attack the virus.
The SW5 gene, as mentioned before, has been located and scientists are now trying to construct and test a tomato-optimized RNA-guided genome editing system using the Cas9 enzyme. There are a series of steps similar to those mentioned with Gertrude. We are theoretically looking for different phenotypes in the plants to give indication of the CRISPR system working.
Well, Lord have mercy, tomato ketchup pie. I'll be. This is a miracle. My poor babies will be healed from this plague. I do have a couple questions, though. Is changing the pants on my plants going to cause a public protest to this because I'd be lumped with the GMOs? Is this going to cause future issues, like pesticides, like DDT? What if a different virus comes around next year and affects my yield like TSWV?
Well, for one, CRISPR is mainly going to be used on your plants to only inactivate harmful genes and hopefully give you some improvement in the flavor and quality of your tomatoes. There aren't any foreign genes that are put into your plants, so they wouldn't exactly be what the everyday person thinks as a GMO. Using CRISPR would only be to target the specific SW5 gene, which would increase your yield to support the economy while also being resistant to the TSWV.
While Pepper makes good points, you also have to be realistic without fully knowing how crops will respond to the CRISPR system in future crop yields. One day your entire field could be wiped out from another virus or fungus not accounted for. The virus could evolve and the plant wouldn't have resistance to it anymore. Or the system might change the taste and look of your tomatoes in a negative way. The tomatoes may not even be safe to consume if we do not continue testing.
Well, me oh my. Y'all are giving me a lot to think about. You know, I think I'll contact y'all about doing more research on my tomatoes. I need to support my family, you know. I'm just hoping after all this CRISPR business, it's still approved by the FDA, if I may not be out of luck.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Let's have a round of applause for our guest today, Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb.
It's Dr. Pibb.
We are hoping from today's appearance that we inform the public about CRISPR, and we hope you want to help advance our knowledge in genetic research. With patents, we want CRISPR to still be affordable and be able to best serve the public by bringing goods to the biomedical market. We don't want religious riots or terrorist groups using this knowledge to develop biological warfare. CRISPR is an amazing and life-changing thing. It's time for the scientific community to set standards and laws so as not to overstep ethical values.
That's it for us here. Have a great day, Wolfpack. Can I leave now?